My mother, Angela Mary Dondero Enright, the Big Ange, Angel, the East Coast Tutu and Toots, Mrs. Enright, Mrs. E, to all our compatriots whom she taught music to at DeChantal and Visitation and all over the DC metropolitan area, Angie to her pals and her brothers and sisters and her mother and father. My mom spent 40 years in the choir loft in this church, which used to be up there, and the altar was over there. And I know many of us still get vertigo upon entering this church because we live so much in the past. Me and my 6 siblings, Maureen, Deirdre, Sheila, Michael, Kathleen, and Kevin, grew up in that choir loft where we were turning our heads down here with the congregation to make sure that Mom was still sitting up there at the organ. Or perhaps because we were touched by the music she was playing, her high heels off, her organ shoes on, pumping the pedals, pulling out the stops. My mom spent a lot of my adult life telling me to join a choir. I never did, so she also always said, "Okay, you're gonna regret it." And indeed I do. So forgive me today if I sing a little bit for all of you dear friends of hers, for I didn't come to bury my mother. I came to praise her, and for Angela, to praise meant to sing. So here in springtime, I sing about the past in a way that my mother would have approved of. Immaculate Mary, your praises we sing. You live now in splendor with Jesus, our King. My mom loved fun stuff, and she was a very funny person. So I'm going to try to be fun and funny if I'm emotional. I can just see her frowning skeptically and murmuring, "Sean, why not, for once, just try to be devout?" Once during grade school here at DeChantal, a friend of the family, in attendance today, no names, was caught fooling around during a school-wide mass. The teacher punished him by banishing him to the choir loft for the rest of the mass. There, our mother invited him to join her on the organ bench and began providing funny commentary on the doings below. My mother multitasked. She comforted the afflicted. She served her Lord. She cracked a million jokes, all without ever missing a note. If she touched you, it was almost certainly with her music. If you didn't think she could sing, she'd convince you otherwise or find you a voice lesson. If you wanted a piece of music played for your wedding or for a loved one's funeral, and I'm talking to you, 1,000 people in Bethesda and all over the area, she'd have that piece ready for you in the right key, exactly as you wanted it. Her perfect pitch, her ability to transpose to a different key on the spot, just by moving her hands down the keyboard to find the key that fit your own singing range. This could be a metaphor for how my mom tried to make everyone she met comfortable. And sometimes she'd forget to get paid. So if she played for your wedding or for your family's funeral or taught you a nice song, take a moment right now and sing it to yourself. She loved all the songs, hers and yours. She knew all the songs, or she'd learn it on the spot. I remember her recalling Johnny Carson and Bette Midler spontaneously breaking into the song, "Here's That Rainy Day," during Carson's final season on TV. I was a cretin and didn't know the song, but we found it on YouTube, and since then, I've watched it repeatedly. Maybe I should have saved those leftover dreams Funny, but here's that rainy day. Here's that rainy day they told me about. And I laughed at the thought that it might turn out this way. St. Francis of Assisi is widely quoted as once saying, "Preach the gospel at all times. When necessary, use words." Apparently, what he actually said was, it's no use walking anywhere to preach unless our walking is our preaching. Our mother led a radical life of peace, grace, and love. She gave and never took. She made beautiful things out of our tawdry lives. Universally adored, she was living proof of human spiritual beauty. She wasn't flashy or cool about things. She was flashy and cool about people. She was engaging and listened and showed curiosity and cared and remembered. She wasn't afraid to talk about the spiritual and the moral, but she didn't preach. Her conduct and her life preached. Walking the walk is faith perfected, not pretty talking. Talking perfected is music, Angela's specialty. My mother was an infinitely greater person than I can ever capture, but she believed her musicality shone brightest. What am I going to do? It's all I am. I'm just a piano player, she said to me once, after her Parkinson's disease began affecting her playing. Her music gave joy and pleasure and solace to the needy and heart to the crestfallen. She was born with perfect pitch, the ability to know musical notes as if she saw them in the air and could tell you what they were. Mom was like the original auto-tune. This was hell on the rest of us who are generally pretty pitchy at best. She dazzled as a student and in performance, on scholarship at Georgetown Visitation, at Manhattanville College of the Sacred Heart, at the Pius XII Institute in Florence, Italy, where she gained a Master of Music degree in 1957. More facts. Between April 16th of 1959 and December 28th of 1965, she gave birth to 7 kids. That's 7 children in 6 years, for those of you keeping score at home. 2 sets of Irish twins. Mom was not in the least a conventional athlete, but that record sort of deserves its own Olympic medal. Let's just say she won the gold medal in the birth septathlon. A heroic and hilarious mother, she almost single-handedly moved all 7 children to Greece in 1971 without breaking a sweat. Our car got firebombed by anti-American Greek nationalists, but Mom invited Greek carolers on our porch and gave them money, then taught us their songs. Kalinimera Hondes. When she finally had her empty nest, she traveled again, to Ireland with her friends, to Italy with her daughter, to Africa for another daughter's wedding, where she went on a legendary safari. A devoted daughter and sister, she was somehow everyone's favorite. Dutiful and loving to her mother and father, Angela Ward and Rayfield Ondiro, to her brother Ray, to her sisters Pauline Ventura and Marie Clement and Rita Dondiro. There was a Steinway grand piano at their home in Hyattsville that followed my mom to our house on Ashburton Lane, and it now sits in my sister's house in Kensington. It's a piano that knows 80 years of Dondiro and Enright touch and all the songs she played. She knew all the songs. Schubert's Wanderer's Fantasy and everything by Beethoven, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Rodgers and Hart. There's Got to Be a Morning After from the movie The Poseidon Adventure, which she played at someone's wedding. She played the country hit Butterfly Kisses at my dentist's wedding. She played I Don't Know How to Love Him and Aquarius and Candle in the Wind for other weddings, other funerals. She taught me my first favorite song when I was 5 years old. Oh, I went down south to see my gal singing Polly Wolly Doodle all the day. She taught my son his favorite song when he was 5 years old, the Abba Dabba Honeymoon. Abba Dabba 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 Dabba, said the monkey to the chimp. She had the sheet music to You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, because she wanted it sung in the complete lyric. You're a vile one, Mr. Grinch. You have termites in your smile. She introduced my 7th grade class at DeChantal to Gilbert and Sullivan's HMS Pinafore, and to this day, I can't meet a classmate from 1974 without hearing some version of I am the captain of the Pinafore and a right good captain too. Not often, but memorably, I remember her playing the piano late at night on Ashburton Lane, almost as therapy, stern, difficult music after we'd gone to bed, Beethoven, Chopin, Schumann. I lay in my bed awestruck, a little frightened by the volume and intensity, the slew of notes. Losing the last 10 years with our mother was the worst. We would have handled it better had she been able to tell us that we could do it. Psalm 25, verse 16 sings, "Turn thou to me and be gracious to me, for I am lonely and afflicted." This can be a prayer of comfort for us now, with Mom gone, and it could have been her prayer in the last decade, where she, despite our massive concerted effort, must have often felt alone. Yet another tribulation that Mom did not succumb to, one more Job-like torment she tried her best to muscle through. She was a completely brave person. She did not hide from conflict and difficulty. But as Mom would point out here, Sean, you don't want to bum people out. So, a story of her bravery. This is a woman who stood up to Muhammad Ali when she saw him once at an airport. She walked up to him and said, "Mr. Ali, my sons are big fans of yours. Can I get your autograph?" She handed him a bank deposit slip. Wordlessly, Ali scrawled his signature in the middle of it and handed it back to her. She looked at it and said, "But I have 3 sons." Still, without speaking a word, the greatest, Muhammad Ali took the paper back, turned it, and signed his name again at the top and again at the bottom. Roll down the window was Mom's philosophy for handling driving with 7 children, at least one of whom statistically was always car sick. There was no stopping, but it seemed also to be one of her core spiritual philosophies. You can't stop living just because things are tough. Take a breath. As Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep going. Or as her mother, Mom Dondiro, sometimes mysteriously used to say, live horse and get grass. Another core philosophy, simple. Try to think about the other guy. She would talk to and sympathize with and make coffee for just about anyone she met. Related funny story, case in point, Mom always welcomed our friends. In the late 80s, Kathleen, Michael, Kevin, and Paul were all sleeping at the house on Ashburton Lane. In the middle of the night, Paul found some young guy asleep on the living room sofa, his baseball cap on the coffee table. Twice, Mom paraded the others through the living room, where they peered in the gray dawn light at the guy's face, trying to figure out who he was, who knew him. Michael shook him, asking, "Dude, who are you?" The guy clearly didn't know why he was there, so he stumbled to his feet and headed out the door. Then Mom said, "I should have at least offered him breakfast." This was a gentleness and innocence that she had. Everyone was a friend. What was important was home, kindness, memory. She loved crossword puzzles and nuns, cookies and Coca-Cola. A curious, deeply satisfying, tireless grandmother, she probably only pretended to still like us, her children, after we gave her 19 grandchildren. She just wanted to get at the babies whom she adored. She put bags of Boston Market chicken dinners in our yard after Declan was born. No note, just left the bags in the yard. On sleepovers at her house, she introduced the millennial generation to the controversial genius of Kukla, Fran, and Ollie. And what about Bob, and Everybody Hates Raymond, and thousands of TV repeats of MASH? She showed her grandkids again and again the joy of ordering those potatoes at Hamburger Hamlet, her go-to restaurant. Her soulful genius extended to a perfect pitch for friendship. She was empathetic, consoling, wheedling, opinionated, whatever you required. She was a voluminous correspondent with her parents and sisters, her children, and her friends. Hilarious, generous, angsty, always using her funny brand of guilt to pry more contact from you, implying your lack of church-going and attention to her. She was the queen of the greeting cards, and most certainly would have sent one to Maureen today, who's celebrating a birthday. Happy birthday, Maureen. I'm sorry I didn't get you a card. There's still time. For our benefit, Mom also pretended to love our musical hero, Bruce Springsteen, as many of you probably have done across the globe to stay in our good graces. Once Sheila took her to buy blue jeans and they went to a Bruce concert. Mom looked at him through binoculars when he was spotlit on the stage with his arms outstretched, and she said, "Oh, he's a Christ figure." And yet she gamely played from all the Bruce Springsteen books, music books we showered her with. "But it doesn't sound like the album," we'd wail. "Well, it's not much of a song on the page," she'd murmur. We have had an amazing outpouring of love for our dear mother. Mom was lucky to have such friends, and we are lucky to have such friends. We thank all of you from our hearts for it, and we thank DeChantal for hosting us today, which was such a special place to her. In an essential way, though, we, her children, have been the luckiest of all. She was our mother, and it was her who taught all 7 of us to love and to laugh and to give, to forgive and to listen and to laugh again. She was friends with all of our friends and had her friends. She was tough and curious and caring, among a million other things. Any one of dozens of us could stand up here and deliver a strong eulogy on the subject of her stunning goodness. So thank you. Thanks to the staff at Kensington Park who took gentle, devoted care of her for 8 years, where she was known as Angie the Queen. And let's remember Mom, because how can we forget her? Let's walk with her soul, which never grew old and never got sick. And certainly will never leave us. There will never be a day when my mother's music dies. Where is that worn-out wish that I threw aside after it brought my love so near? Funny how love becomes a cold, rainy day. Funny that rainy day is here. So today, I finally joined the choir, Ma. Today, we're all singing to the choir. We have one voice, and we sing the praise of Angie, Angela, Angel, Mrs. E, the big A, if you please.